At the end, after what they had been through, Wilson and the lieutenant have established a sort of bond. I could have built up their characters and the relationship, but I thought that would have been copying Hawks right down the line. So I just didn't want to do it. Basically, it's Wilson's ending, and all I wanted was, through the lieutenant, to state the fact that he deserves some dignity for what he'd done. It wasn't meant to be more, just a very simple ending. Clean, heroic. Those are words from director John Carpenter on his 1976 film, Assault on Precinct 13. Seeing Faces in Movies is a podcast where each month I focus on the works of a different director or cinematographer. And each week I invite a guest on to discuss the film and the artist's filmography. I'm your host, Felicia, and today we're talking about Assault on Precinct 13. So, very quick synopsis of the film is a highway patrol officer, two criminals, and a station secretary form an unlikely alliance to defend a defunct Los Angeles precinct against a siege by a bloodthirsty street gang. Tagline for the film is "The gang that swore a blood oath to destroy Precinct 13 and every cop in it." The film stars Austin Stoker as Ethan Bishop, Darwin Jostin as Napoleon Wilson, Laurie Zimmer as Lee, Martin West as Lawson, and Tony Burton as Wells. It's written and directed by John Carpenter, cinematography by Douglas Knapp, edited by John Carpenter, music by John Carpenter, costumes by Nancy Kyes, and special effects by Richard Alvin Jr. and Ken Speed. Today I have on the show for the first time after what feels like to me an embarrassing amount of time that you should have been on way before this, but I'm glad that we get to talk about Carpenter today. But today I have on Kazmo, who I know through Nick's film club. Nick, who's been on the show before, a lot of the film club members have been on. So I'm so glad to have you on the show finally.
Yes. Yes. I'm very excited. I feel like I'm in like hallowed ground.
Oh gosh. Well, I feel like I'm in good hands because I know you know
Mm.
your shit, and it's gonna be a good time, and I'm especially excited to talk to you about Assault on Precinct 13 because I think we'll have a lot to say about it,
Mhm.
and I know that you're a fan of the film. But
Yeah.
before we get into that specific one, I am curious to hear what your relationship is to John Carpenter. Would you consider yourself a fan of most of his work, or maybe how did you get into his filmography?
I mean, Halloween is like the biggest thing in the world. Like
Mhm.
I knew about Halloween before I knew about John Carpenter. I that's
Yeah.
how I know him. And it's funny, like I just recently seen Halloween, but before that, it was just like you just knew the music, you know the Michael, like you just knew the look. It's like I would be able to point it out before I even saw the film. So that was all John Carpenter was to me. And then but I think the first John Carpenter movie I saw was probably They Live. So
Mm.
that's the one that I think really got me into his movies and him as a director and even as like a personality.
Yeah, I mean, good pointing out that he's definitely a personality,
Yes.
and which I feel like we're missing in directors nowadays, where
Yeah,
people are just kind of like, I just putting out my movie and I'm not trying to put myself out there, where
out there,
he,
yeah. Mhm.
to this day, is very blunt.
Yeah, he says
He
what he means. Yeah.
and you know what? I love that for him.
Yes.
Which is funny because, with this series, it's been great being able to just watch interviews with him
Mhm,
and all the interviews he's given over the years, because some directors I cover, it's harder to find them speaking about it. Obviously,
mhm.
some of them are from an older generation where they just wasn't video footage of them speaking,
Yeah.
but there's so much. And this episode might be a little bit more quote heavy than
Mhm,
others
mhm.
because he's got a lot of great quotes, which I feel like, the audience would hopefully enjoy if they're
Mm,
Carpenter fans.
yeah.
So, well, we are talking about Assault on Precinct 13, and I am curious, do you remember when you first watched this and what drew you to watching this for the first time?
I think the first time I watched this was maybe last year or 2 years ago, and I was just 'cause I think I had watched Halloween, The Thing, and rewatched They Live, and I saw The Thing before as well, but I was like, "Wait a minute, there's I Assault on Precinct 13, I've heard of that, and I didn't realize that it was John Carpenter, and I was like, "I need to watch this," because it seems to not be like I mean, everything else I should watch is like horror, like,
Mhm.
horror adjacent, so I was like, this seems like a little different, speed for him, so I was like, "I definitely gotta watch that," and I just love anything that's like action, like shoot 'em up or
Yep.
anything like that. So I was like, I need to, get this out of the way for sure. And I just loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so because I was surprised by it's not just an action movie. It still is pretty scary. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
No, I fully agree also,
Mm.
and I
Mhm.
think I think I also watched it maybe around the did you watch it on Criterion for the first time?
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah.
I yeah. Mhm.
That's
Yep.
also when I first watched it because it's definitely one of the later ones that I got around to,
Mhm.
and Criterion had it up, and it was leaving, and I was like, "Okay, now's the time for me to
Mhm.
finally watch it." And I just was blown away by it because
Yeah.
it is talked about, but not as much as, obviously, like, the ones you mentioned.
Mhm.
So, I was glad that you mentioned wanting to cover this one because I think it's really important. There's a lot to talk about in this
Mhm.
movie. He mentions, and a lot of people mention when you read about this film, the influences from earlier films
Mhm.
on this one. 2 specific ones, the influence of Night of the Living Dead on
Right.
this, which we
Mhm.
can see, and
Mhm.
then there's also the influence of Howard Hawks's, like, westerns,
Mhm.
specifically, like, Rio Bravo and Rio Lobo. If we talk about briefly the the influence of Night of the Living Dead, I think it's probably not as obvious if you haven't seen the film where that where that could come about, but as
Mhm.
the film progresses and even, as I was rewatching it, I was like, they do have this gang does have, like, a zombie feel to them, especially when they're
100%.
multiplying and you're like, "Where did
Yes.
they all come
Where'd
from?"
it come from? Yes.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is" and the way they just operate, they're kind of very slow but
Mhm.
determined.
Mhm.
So, Carpenter himself has mentioned that he was influenced by this, and when it premiered at Cannes, it premiered there, this film, and to some mixed reviews there,
Mm.
but George A. Romero was there and saw it, and he was blown away by it, so he
Oh,
was one of the
wow.
earlier fans of this
That's
movie.
cool.
It's kind of a cool full circle moment for Carpenter, but I find the references to Westerns a little bit more interesting because Carpenter said that he wanted to make a Western originally, and because he was given a lower budget of, I think, 200,000,
Oh, wow.
and he was like, "I can't make a proper Western with that budget," so he modernized it, and whether you're a fan of Westerns or not, if you think about it, you can see the references to that genre with, like,
Mhm.
a gang coming in and, like, the conflicts there and being
Yeah.
stuck in one spot and
Mhm.
kind of the hero and the anti-hero. So I do wanna not necessarily talk about specific Westerns, but kind of the level of action in this film versus, like, a straight up action film of the '70s or '80s,
Mhm.
because I think there's a little bit more to this than just
Mhm.
being a straight action film.
Yeah.
Um, there is something he said specifically about this and how he wanted to make, again, like I said, he wanted to make a Western but couldn't, and how he feels like he's very much a genre director and he would have been best in the Hollywood system of, like,
Mm.
making you. So he said, and I'm gonna hopefully read this quote properly, but he said, "If I had 3 wishes, one of them would be send me back to the '40s and the studio system and let me direct movies, because I would have been happiest there. I feel like I'm a bit out of time. I have much more kinship for older style films, and very few films that are made now interest me at all. I get up and walk out of them." And in that sense, I have a tough battle. I like genres, and regardless of what I do, I identify myself with the genre I'm working in. so I
Mhm.
can relate it to others. And I think he does a good job of modernizing it for the audience of the time. So
Mhm.
if we think about the bare bones of a Western, it's usually the main theme is conflict, and there's
Mhm.
good and bad. What he
Mhm.
does here by modernizing it is bringing bad to work with the good, and then
Yeah.
we have the bad. The lone cop in this situation, I think, is very much of the Western hemisphere there too. For you, watching this, knowing especially watching it for the first time, you know that there's a precinct that's being closed down. You're not really sure what's going on. We have a bus full of convicts that are being transported to death row. They have to
Mhm.
stop because one of them's sick to this precinct. We also simultaneously are seeing this gang who is kind of terrorizing people after we
Mhm.
see that the cops had shot members of their gang. For you, how do you feel the conflict works versus other action films? Because for me, I remember being like, how are these 2 gonna intersect?
Right.
Like, how do
Mhm.
we get these 2 together?
Mhm.
And how do you feel like the action progresses? I know it's like that's a broad question, but curious to hear what your emotions are as you're watching these 2 stories happen simultaneously and how they're going to interact
Yeah.
together.
Well, the first time I watched it, like I said, I was just surprised by the pacing of it and
Mhm.
the way the action takes place because he really takes his time with it, and, and now watching it the second time, and I did read that, he believes he was making a Western. I was like, "Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense," like, the way that the posse, the bad guys, surround our team, and they have, like, a whole shootout, and it's like, "Okay, this is definitely a Western." Even, like, how he makes the police station look like a saloon, like, even the doors, they swing, and it's all run down, but even, like, the colors of it reminds me of, like, the red clay of of, like, Western movies. So I was like, "This is straight up, he just put a Western in a city."
Yep.
And it's really cool how he does it, and, like, I was really surprised at how tense it is, like I said, I feel scared when I watch it, like, I'm especially those moments when they're just terrorizing people in the street, it's like, who are they gonna kill, you know? And like you said, how are these 2 forces gonna meet? Because we have all these different storylines, and, like, why are they gonna come after these specific people who have nothing to do with them, you know? It was really interesting, yeah.
No, I think that's I mean, beautifully said, and I hadn't even considered the fact that the precinct operates as a saloon, but now that you
Yeah.
mention it, like, I visualize that it's
Mhm.
very much like that.
Mhm.
That's really cool, and I think that, bringing it to the gang specifically and, your thoughts of because I felt the same where we don't really hear them speak much,
Right. Mhm.
and we're just kind of following them. They seem like they're very much on a mission. And we also get this father and daughter, and we're like, "Okay, so what's
Mhm.
going on here with them?
Yeah.
How are they relevant to the story?" Another thing that he says, and I found this interesting because I think this movie is saying a lot,
Mhm.
but he describes his films as, like, anti-intellectual, and he says in his mind, he's like again, another quote, "My whole philosophy of movies is that movies are not intellectual. They're not ideas. That is done in literature. Movies are emotional. An audience should cry or laugh or get scared. I think the audience should project into the film, into a character, into a situation and react." I think he's kind of downplaying the influence of his stories, and he thinks that people are just emotionally involved, which they are, but I think he is also saying something with this
Yeah.
movie, whether he believes it or not. So, I don't think this movie is like pro cop or anti cop. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
it's neither of those things. I think he's showing multiple sides to everyone because if he wanted us to think the gang was just outright bad, which they are, but
Mhm.
I think he wouldn't have shown us that they had a reason why they were going after the cops.
Exactly, yeah.
He would have just thrown us into it. So,
Exact
I think that's a message. He
Mhm.
also specifically was talking about the fact that the gang was racially mixed.
Right. Mhm.
And he did that on purpose. He's like, "I am not gonna have just an all black gang. I'm not gonna have an all
Yeah.
Latino gang or an all
Mhm.
white because
Mhm.
that's sending a message, but I think also making it mixed race
Mhm.
is also sending a message that
Yep.
this is not about, that
Mhm.
this is a gang who or whatever activities they're known for. It's not a racially based, and I also think him having the cop be black. Again, he says he was the best actor for the role. I didn't
Mhm.
specifically write it as black, which I do believe. He just was like, he was the best actor. But I think it's interesting that he's black
Mhm.
in a more poverty-stricken area where he's going to
Right.
be, but the precinct
Mhm.
is being moved out. Um, I think the way he uses race in his films is very interesting because he doesn't make a big deal
Feel
out
about
of
it.
it,
No. Mm-mm.
and he's always used a variety of racially mixed people in his cast, and
Mhm.
it's never been like, "Oh, I'm a black cop and I have a story and I'm trying to."
Yeah.
How do you feel about this? Because I did want to, like, I can talk to anyone about any movie, but I do think that it is important to talk to someone who's also black about a
Yeah,
film like
yeah.
this. How do you feel watching this? Because I know some people find it like, well, I wish he had pointed it
Ma
out.
Made the statement, yeah. Mhm.
How do you feel about it? And there's no right or wrong answer
Yeah.
about it, because I am curious to hear that he said his films are anti-intellectual, and he purposely is like, "I'm not trying to send a message, I'm just trying to make a movie." But,
Yeah.
everyone is gonna put their own thoughts on a film.
I think it's really cool. I It's funny in this, I believe, the cop I think somebody asked him, like, "How do you take your coffee black?" And he was like, "For over 30 years." And that was like it was like that it was a cute little joke, and that was like
Yeah.
it, really, like, to talk about his race. And I think that's really cool. It's freeing a bit because I don't know, sometimes I feel like maybe a white director isn't equipped to go all
Mhm.
into the psychology of what it is to be a black cop. Like, maybe that's not his
Yeah.
zone. And I like that, he gets to be the hero, Bishop. He's the leader of this whole shebang, and he makes it to the end of the movie, which is, incredible. Does not
Tell
always
me about
happen.
it.
And so I really like that. And with the gang too, I like that it's because a lot of times with gangs, it is race-based. But I like that his idea is that this gang, because they definitely believe in something. You see them, like, do, like, the blood ritual. Like, these guys have something that they live by, and they have an oath. But it goes beyond race for them, and it's not just about we're all Latino, we're all black. It's like, no, we believe in something higher, and that's why we do what we do, which I think makes it even more interesting because I don't know, the whole race thing gets played out sometimes. It's like, yeah, we always do that.
I
It makes a
know.
much more interesting movie. Yeah.
I agree, and I do agree that it makes it more freeing because I
Mhm.
think that it's not that he's pretending that he's not black. He is
Right.
acknowledging that he is, but
Mhm.
it's not his whole personality, and like you said, he's not equipped to go into the psychology of
Mhm.
what it would be like to be a black cop in that
Y
area. Because
Yeah.
how could he possibly know unless he's
Yeah.
doing some deep research, and then even then, you have the run the risk of being offensive. I think
Yes.
it just shows, like, again, if you hear Carpenter speak or just watch any of his movies, he's just someone who's like, people are people,
Right. Mhm.
and he is not someone who it's not that he doesn't see race or
Yeah.
color.
No, definitely. Yeah.
He does. He's just like, this was he's the best actor for the film.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, and I love that, and, I think that's what makes it even more terrifying, the way they're going after people is because it's not race-based, it's just, like,
Yes.
indiscriminate,
Yeah.
which brings me to definitely one of the more famous scenes of this movie that still to this day shocks me with, the little girl.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
It's something that this is where, bringing it back to the Western element, this would never happen in an old school Western. It still
No.
wouldn't even happen in, like, a modern film, and I know
Mm,
the studio wanted him to remove that scene, and he was like, "I'm not doing that,"
good.
um, because it's absolutely insane,
Yeah.
and there's nothing that can prepare you for it. It will always shock you, but, if you're listening to this, I'm, again, hoping you've watched the film. But he talks about the scene and how he was like, "For me to make the audience believe that this gang will stop at nothing, I need to
Mhm.
add a scene that will show you that they will stop at nothing." So, I think in movies the 2 type of killings that will get an audience member be like, "Okay, they're serious," is if they kill an animal
Mhm.
or if they
Yep.
kill a child
Yep.
or an elderly too, but
Yeah.
especially the first 2, an animal or a child, then you're like, "Oh, okay, so they mean business."
Yeah.
And he said it was based off of a real news story that he read about a gang who was holding up some area, and they said out loud, they're like, "The next person that gets out, we're shooting them," and a child happened to get out of a car, not knowing what was happening, and they
Oh.
shot the kid. And he wrote that into this. It's kind of wild how quick it happens because it doesn't give you a
Yes.
moment to
N
breathe.
nope.
Especially because you don't know that who's behind
Mhm.
the car at that time. Uh,
Mhm.
what were your thoughts on when that happened? I remember being like,
Man.
"There's no way that just happened."
Yeah, no, the first time I watched it, I promise you, I rewinded it at least 3 times because I literally couldn't believe it because at first she starts walking away from the ice cream truck, and I'm like, there we go." It's just a little bit of, just to make
Mhm,
it tense, she's gonna be fine, and then she goes back. I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute." And then because the gang had been driving around in that car, so I was waiting
mhm,
for the car to come back, but a car doesn't come back, the guy comes back, and it's that scares me because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh, he's right there." And then the way he shoots her, just, like, nonchalant, doesn't even, like, really look at her, just, like, does it and then puts his gun back, and it's like you said, it's so fast. And they show it. That's another thing. It's like a lot of times in movies, they'll
mhm,
cut away. You'll just hear the shot, they're not gonna show like blood on a child like that, and they do, and you see her fall, and it's just like, yeah, like your stomach drops. It's like these guys are not like there's no heart of gold or anything like that to expect with this game. It's absolutely unbelievable. I can believe that the studio was like, you can't do this, John Carpenter, but it's really effective, so I think he was right, to leave it in for sure.
oh, 100%. 'Cause having a little blonde girl with,
Yeah, with
like,
pigtails.
pigtails,
Yeah.
holding an ice cream and shooting her through said ice cream,
Yep. Mhm.
that's sending a message, very
Mhm.
clear message, and that's what the gang is sending,
Yeah.
and, it always shocks me to see and I get why, when the father's in shock when he sees the daughter, and he's holding her, and he
Oh,
sees
yeah.
the guy tells him there's a gun there, so he
Mhm.
goes after him, and I'm like, "Oh, dang, you just left your daughter's
I
body."
know, just left her right there, that is crazy.
I know, that always makes me feel sad because you never see her again, and I'm like, "Obviously,
Nope.
someone's gonna drive by and be like, 'There's 2 people
Mhm.
dead,' and get her," but it always just yeah, it's always very upsetting the fact that he just has to leave her and then go, and then you see, obviously, he's in, like, massive amount of shock,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's interesting because the way those 2 characters are introduced, they're like a 3rd element where you're like, "Now how are these people gonna fit in to the
Yes,
story?
right.
Like, why is
Mhm.
he relevant to the story?" So, I think it's just really great writing in this movie, and a lot of it just shows what they could get away with in the '70s
Mhm.
also,
Yes, that's true.
and it's just kind of wild to me the fact that we just would not see this in a movie, in at least in a North American movie, you wouldn't see something like
Yeah,
this.
that's true. Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be the talk of, Twitter, for lack of
Yeah, it
good one.
would.
So that's interesting. I do wanna talk about the women in this film
Mhm.
because we have 2, one who doesn't make it and one who does,
Mhm.
and the role that they play in this film. There's a term and this is bringing it back to Howard Hawks and
Mhm.
Westerns again, called the Hawksian woman.
Mhm.
Essentially what that is a lot of the times in Howard Hawks films, like in almost all of them, he had a very strong woman character who was like, "I take
Mhm.
no bullshit. I will take control. I will use
Mhm.
force if needed," while also remaining, in quotes, feminine.
Right.
Feminine,
Mhm.
especially for the 40s, 50s times. So it's people like Barbara Stanwyck, Katharine Hepburn. If you even
Right.
think of just Katharine Hepburn, what she represented, she was very much a Hoxian woman. And Lee, the main woman in this, she is very much a Hoxian woman. She's someone who
Yeah.
gets shot, she's using guns, she's taking control. She's never the woman or the damsel in
Yeah.
distress, and
Definitely.
all while wearing, like, a tight top and skirt,
Yeah. Mhm.
she's not like, "Oh, I need to put on pants."
Pants.
At
Exactly.
some
Yes.
point, like, they would and I will say as a side note, I was like, "She looks like she's in, like, Velma cosplay." Like, she reminded me of Velma
Yeah,
quite
I
a
can
bit.
see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially with the
Oh,
hair and everything,
I
yeah.
know. She's just missing the glasses, but,
Yeah.
for this type of film, a and it makes sense why the women are there because, again, she plays essentially the secretary at the precinct. And she's still there because they're closing up shop, and she has to be there while everything moves because people are calling in and out. But it's interesting because other films, even of the time and even still now, other films would make it so that the men have to be taking care of the women in this film,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's never really the case. The other woman, she's still, strong enough, but she's also panicking. Like, I feel I would be like that. And
Yeah.
at some point, she's like, "Why don't we just give him up?" Because it seems like
Mhm.
if
They
the
want
father
him. Yeah.
want him,
Mhm.
that's also something I might be like, "Hey, listen, I'm not trying to lose my life for this man." I don't know him like that. So I fully I empathize with her, but it's very cool to see a woman like the character Lee in this be like an equal ground. And
Mhm.
again, he says he's not making a statement, but it is still a statement, for you, and I think Carpenter has always had a lot of strong women in his
Mhm.
films. If we talk about Halloween being his most popular, that's a woman who makes it to the end and she's taking control of a situation. How does it work for you in this film of having the 2 women, but especially Lee specifically, being someone who makes it to the end and not of any need of, assistance from the men?
It's really cool, like, I like that there's 2 women who both are in the same situation, but are totally different in how it's affecting them and how they wanna approach it, and like you said, it's not like either one of them nobody's wrong or right, like, the other woman who doesn't make it through, I mean, she's not wrong to be scared and to and to be like, "Let's get rid of this guy," like, we don't, cause like, they don't know why he came in there or, like, what he did, like, maybe
Yeah.
he's a problem, so it's like, I understand where she was coming from, and then Lee is just like it's really cool too that, like, it's not bogged down by, like, a backstory because
Mhm.
I do kinda wonder, like, why is Lee like this? Cause when she gets shot, she doesn't even, like, flinch. She just, like she just, like, stares at him like, "You shot me." And then she fires, and I'm like, "Whoa, this lady is, like, stone cold." And like you said, she takes control, she saves the prisoners, she gets them
Mhm.
out of the cells down there. So, it's, like, really cool to see a woman, like, be a force of, like, be a savior and be the one who's, like, got ideas and it's killing people. Cause that doesn't happen a lot too, like, even if it's a strong woman, like, maybe she's
Mhm.
just handling it in a strong way, but they don't always let the woman kill somebody, and she gets a lotta bodies in this in this movie, so
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
Now it is because again, it's just the 1979 when this or 1976 when this
Yeah. Mhm.
this is in the middle of the, new
No.
American
Mhm.
cinema where they were just going against the older Hollywood system, even though that's the system that Carpenter wanted to be a part of, but he's still so modern of a director and so aware of his surroundings.
Mm.
And he said it, and Hawks also said it. Hawks was like, "I wrote women like that because those are the women that I was personally attracted to." He was like, "I like someone who's gonna kinda push me around." I was like, "Okay, noted.
Okay.
I see you." And Carpenter was like, "Those are the type of girls that I grew up with." Like,
Mhm.
and he grew up in Kentucky, and
Oh,
he
okay.
was like,
Yeah.
"Those are the girls that I, would play, with on the school ground, and they were
Mhm.
not, letting me take the lead. I was kinda following them around." So, it's cool to see someone who acknowledges that and has continued even throughout his career to always write
Mhm.
women like that, because it's just refreshing to watch, because I think when a film is male heavy, which this film is,
Is,
when you
yeah.
have, like, 1 or 2 women, you're like, "Okay, what's the route that they're gonna go down?"
Right, and you gotta get it right, 'cause it's
Yeah.
like you said, it's only 2 of them, so
Mhm.
you only get 2 shots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, let's not mess this up.
Yeah.
Um, I also love the idea of, like, the anti-hero with
Mhm.
the
Yes.
convicts,
Mhm.
specifically the Maywin Napoleon. He's originally on his way to death row, so he's
Right.
obviously done something that is not great, and he proves himself in this film. It also is like a situation of self-preservation, like, I also
Right.
wanna survive, but he could also turn on the cops or the
Yes.
other people so that he can get out, but he doesn't
Mhm.
do that. And I've heard him be described kind of like a Clint Eastwood style anti-hero,
Mm.
someone who we know has done bad, but is not
Mm.
fully like the gang members who were like, "There's
Right.
no saving them. They
Mhm.
are on a mission. They are not here to do any level of good. We just saw them
Yes.
shoot a girl." Uh, so they're going to kill everyone. At the end, we know that he's still gonna be sent to death row,
Mhm. Right.
but there is that moment between him and Lee where they look at each other, where they're, like, acknowledging what they done for one
Mhm.
another, and that shift, and I think, again, that's really important to have the duality, because I think if you have just straight up, "Oh, these are the good guys and the bad guys," if it's kind of, I don't know, it's too much of a trope and it can be boring, and I think what
Boring,
he
yeah.
does, without even giving a huge backstory, is showing that there is room for a change, and I wonder how you
Mhm.
feel about that character and how
Mhm.
he progresses. Does it feel natural to you? Because sometimes it feels like, "Oh, they shifted out of nowhere," but I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it
yeah.
feels that way in this movie.
No, especially I mean, I feel from the get-go when we meet Napoleon, like, yes, this guy is, you know, I mean, he's on death row, so like you said, he's definitely not a good guy, but he's charming, like, and like, he's not a person that you find of like repulsive, like you
Mhm,
want to hang out with Napoleon. So you can kind of feel that he probably has some type of morals or something like that draws you to him. Like it makes sense that Lee and him kind of depend on each other because they both do have like this kind of like some kind of secret past or
mhm,
something that kind of puts them together that they understand that they are in a mode of survival and like we have to handle business here. And it's really like Napoleon is just like it makes sense to me that he is the way he is, and all the help that he does, and you feel kind of good. I mean, it's a bittersweet ending because he still got to die, but it's like
mhm.
you feel like Bishop does. It's like it'd be an honor to walk out with you because it is like he's like he really proved his salt, and in that precinct.
Because he's already like, "Well, I already have a death sentence, so I could either make 0 effort, or I can spend all of my effort trying to get away
Yeah. Mhm.
and avoid that," but he doesn't, and I think it's really interesting the way he's introduced and his scene when he's being put into the bus, and,
Mhm.
I guess I don't know if it's the warden or one of the who's accompanying
Yeah.
them, and he kinda trips him with the
With the chain.
the chains. It's
Yeah.
I think that that definitely puts you on his side because, again, we have
Yes.
no idea what he did. You at that point, you don't even wanna know or you don't really care. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
again, I hope it's not something, you know,
Yeah.
too serious, but
Yeah.
it's interesting the way those characters are shown and you can empathize with them. And it's also
Mhm.
maybe even a commentary on death row and
Well, I was about to say capital punishment, yeah.
without even outright saying it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's funny to hear you say that he thought he was anti-intellectual, because it's like there's a lot of ideas in here. I mean, maybe you're not trying to say it, but it's it's obviously there.
Exactly. And, that interview was from 1978, so it's a couple years after he did
Mhm.
this one.
Mhm.
Maybe his mindset has changed since
Right.
then because
Yeah.
then, he later goes on to make They Live, which is
Which
obviously
is
sending a
yeah.
message. So, maybe he just thought early in his career that he didn't want to be, quotes, "a political director."
Mm.
But I
Mhm.
think if you're someone who's self-aware and aware of your surroundings, that just makes you inherently political, and political doesn't need to be a
Mhm.
bad thing. I think
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
just being aware, which I think a lot more people should be
Mhm. Yeah.
aware of what's happening
Absolutely.
because, things haven't necessarily gotten better since 1976,
No.
unfortunately. Some might say worse.
Yeah. I think I would say that.
I'd say that too.
Yeah.
Um, the music, because you can't talk
Ah,
about a Carpenter film without talking about the music. He does the score in this one like he does in a lot of his films. I I think even again rewatching it, I think it might be my favorite score of his. It just
me
fits
too.
so well.
Yes.
And I know that the score for Halloween is obviously the most popular one because
Mhm.
that's escaped even the film. It's just like synonymous with.
Yes. Horror and everything.
But I really think this one deserves its flowers because it works perfectly. It's introduced within the film right at the top, and then we
Mhm.
hear it sometimes throughout the story progresses, but it's never overwhelming. He introduces
No.
as needed because a lot of the
Mhm.
movie is quite quiet. As
Quiet,
you see,
yeah.
the gang doesn't really speak, and
Mhm.
even as the people in the precinct, there is dialogue, but a lot of times
Mhm.
it's just them being like, there's a lot of shots
Yes.
being put at us. So I'm just curious to hear how you feel about this music, knowing that you've seen other Carpenters and he's scored most
Yeah.
of those films as well, and how this
Yeah.
music works for you.
I'm with you. This is my favorite. I When I watched it again, I it starts off right at the beginning with the credits, and I'm grooving. Like I'm like, this is so good. Like it already gets you in a mood, and it's so cool and just but also creepy in its own way. And like you said, like he takes it out at the right moments and puts it back in at the perfect moments, like, think when things start getting, like, more action and, like, things start popping off a little bit, it's like that music comes back in, and you can really it really gets you in the mindset for, like, the movie, so I think it's really good, like you said, the Halloween is, like,
Mhm.
that's the number 1, but this one for me is just it's more my style, I think. I like it a lot more. It really, really works. That's and it's so cool that he does that. When I learned that he does the music for most of his movies, like, that's just a baller move.
Yeah.
Like,
For
or it's, like, so cool to do.
exactly, because
Yeah.
again, most directors would not like it's I
No.
can't even think of any. I'm sure there's other ones who have done their own music, but not to the extent that he has. And
Mhm.
I was reading him talk about that. He's like, I wish I could get someone else to score my movies, but he's like, the budgets that I get doesn't allow for the level of music that I want. So he's like, I'm the next best thing that I can get for my price.
Wow.
Respect.
It
Um,
works.
and it does work. He's
Yeah.
obviously a very, very good musician, and a lot of people associate him with music along with being a director because he's done, like, shows of his own music, concerts, so but I agree, this is one that you could just listen to,
Yeah, it on its own, it could be yeah,
yeah.
driving around music, like, it's it's
Yeah,
great.
which,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't personally unless it's, like, actually Halloween, I wouldn't necessarily be listening to the Halloween score
No.
on my everyday, that'd be a little
Yeah.
bit I mean, no disrespect for people, do that,
No.
but it's not
Mhm.
really my my vibe to just listen to
Yeah.
Halloween score.
Yeah, it's a little loud. I don't know. Just a little screechy.
Yeah, I'm like, how at what point in my day am I listening to this? Am I starting my
Yeah.
day off with it? Am I ending my
Yeah,
day?
yeah. It's definitely not relaxing.
No, it's not. Speaking of Halloween, actually, we're gonna talk about that in a couple
Mhm,
seconds because we'll get into the second segment of the before and after. Just to set the scene for the listeners of where Carpenter was in his career, because we're very early in his career at this point with Assault on
mhm,
Precinct 13. So he's made one other feature film before this, a film called Dark Star that was released in 1979. So that started off as a student film because he
mhm,
was at USC in California. He did film school there, and his thesis film was Dark Star. Producers showed interest in it, so he was
mhm,
given money to make a full feature-length film because it was a 45-minute student project at the time. So he
mhm,
made a full length.
mhm.
It's funny because when you read people talk about this movie, they're like, "Oh, I can tell it's a student film." I was like, "Well, by the time that you're watching it, it's actually no longer a student film." But yes, like
Yeah.
it is
Mhm,
a very low budget sci-fi film. I just watched it for the first time. It'd been on my list to watch
mm,
forever, but I used this as an excuse to watch it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of
mm,
fun. People
mhm.
don't love it because they think it's maybe a little too low budget or a little too silly. I think a lot of people forget that Carpenter does have funnier films in his
Yeah,
filmography and that he's not always just serious and or just horror based. Like again, Assault on Precinct 13 has horror elements, but it's not a
yeah,
horror film.
right.
Um, I enjoyed it. He said about it, he's like, I've loved science fiction since I was a kid, and some of the film was paying tribute to the old science fiction films. The beach ball alien was like the '50s rubber monsters running around. We had no money to compete with 2001, but its religious overtones of that film insulted me so much that I just said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a down to earth movie. It's like, he's like, I wanted to show like something like, how do you clean your underwear when you're in a spaceship
Insane.
and so on. But you feel that. You can feel I
Mhm.
also could see him not liking 2001. As someone who's also not a fan of that movie, I feel akin to Carpenter, who was like, "This is you're doing too much in this movie." Where the Dark Star is like the complete, opposite of that, but it does have similar themes of, like,
Mhm.
the robot voice who's a woman
Yeah.
speaking to the members, so it's actually not as difficult to find. It sometimes comes on Criterion Channel, but I feel like
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Tubi. It's pretty readily available, but
Yeah.
that was the start of his professional career, Dark Star,
Mhm.
and then he goes on to make Assault on Precinct 13 because, it did do fairly well, and
Mhm.
the other thing to mention on Dark Star is it was co-written by Dan O'Bannon, who is
Right.
also in the film as an actor, but he goes on to write, Alien
Mhm.
and a multitude of other films, but namely known for making or writing Alien
Mhm.
and creating his career from
Mhm.
there. They didn't go on to make I think they had a bit of a falling out,
Mm.
and they just never worked together again after this,
Aw.
but, they went in separate directions, both successful in their own right. And then Carpenter makes Assault on Precinct 13 in 1976, and then really has his breakthrough in 1978 with Halloween, a
Mhm.
film that, again, you can't talk about Carpenter without mentioning that film.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not covering it in this series because I think every podcast in the world has covered
Has already
Halloween.
talked about it,
I
yeah?
don't need to add to the noise on that. It's also, like, secretly not even secretly, it's just not one of my favorite Carpenter
Mhm.
movies.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Uh, now I okay, and then this is not I'm not trying to be a hater because I know I'm gonna get comments about this, but I rewatched it this past October because I hadn't seen it since I was a teenager, and I was like, "Oh, no, I kind of hate this movie."
Mm.
The music's good, but I just was not vibing with it. I was like, "This is straight up stupid," and I don't think his other
Ye
movies are stupid.
Not at all. Yeah, I'm with I like I said, I watched it recently and I was like, "Whoa." this is what people love. I don't, especially if you, I don't know, seeing it after watching The Thing and They Live.
Exactly.
I'm like, how is this better? Like like I'm with you. It's very stupid. I think it's like horrendously stupid. I don't know.
Yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
it doesn't
I'm
work for
glad.
me.
I'm glad because I know a lot of people love it, and I love that for
Yeah,
them. But I
yeah,
was like, this is just, especially when you get, like you said, if you've seen his other films, you're
yeah,
like, well, he's not someone who writes stupid things. So I don't know
yeah,
how that came about. I think he was just trying to make a straight up horror film. When it works for a lot of people, it is a
yeah, yeah,
classic for a
yeah.
reason, and I get
Mhm,
that. And I like some of the sequels. That he
mhm,
some of them he wrote, and some of them he
mhm,
just was a producer on. But yeah, not the biggest fan of Halloween. But Halloween, the first week it came out, was not successful. A lot of critics
mm,
hated it. But then one critic, I think it was a French critic, maybe, or maybe someone, I don't know. I can't remember who they were, but one critic about a week later wrote a glowing review of it, and
mhm,
that caused people
mhm.
to go back and rewatch it, and then it
Wow.
blew up. And then it was a huge, huge success, and was able to then get bigger projects after
Mm,
that. He's always had issues with funding with his films,
right.
even though he's such a huge director, but
Mhm.
he was still getting projects based on the success of
Of
Halloween.
Halloween.
So,
Mhm.
he really could have just lived off the success of Halloween because I'm sure he's making still so much money from,
Oh,
like,
I'm sure. Yeah.
all of the remakes, the reboots that
Mhm,
have happened since then, unnecessary
mhm.
amount of reboots that have happened, that,
Yeah.
he kinda talks about it, he's like, "That was a movie that I made, and I don't think that it's even his one of his favorites because he
Favorites,
talks about
yeah.
other things, more
Mhm,
fondly than
mm,
he would talk about The Thing where they live, more
mhm,
fondly than he
mhm,
would Halloween." So that's where he was at his career. We're gonna see, after that, Carpenter go through his '80s phase where he does the more sillier things and where he does a lot more serious. So, he goes on to do They Live, The Thing,
mhm.
Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China. So we're getting that mix of genres that he's doing. It's even though for the average person, if you hear the name John Carpenter, they just associate with horror. But I'm
Right.
like,
Mhm.
he's done way more
A lot
non-horror
more. Yeah. Mhm,
than he's done horror.
mhm,
So, it's interesting to see how he starts his career, making 3 different genre films. Starts off with sci-fi, and it goes with,
mhm.
like, action, western, thriller, and then goes on to right after make a straight up horror film.
Or
So,
film, yeah.
uh, jack of all trades, some
Yeah.
might say.
Mhm,
So yeah, that's his before and after. Getting into the third segment, trademarks. So for this one, I have one main trademark that I want to mention,
mhm,
that I see that's prevalent in this film and I've seen in his other films. The main trademark that I noticed rewatching this, and especially with me doing this series and going back and rewatching films and watching films I hadn't seen of his, I noticed that he likes the use of, like, minimal locations and having the bulk of the action take place in, like, one setting, often like a building, like in this, or like a
yeah.
house, like in Halloween. So obviously, this movie doesn't fully take place in just one setting. We have those few, the first 20, maybe even 30 minutes is like
Yeah.
multiple locations, people traveling, but the bulk of the main action takes place in the precinct, which makes things more, I don't want to say claustrophobic, but it's like, okay, now we're stuck in this one space and
Yeah.
we only have so much space to do things. And it's
Mhm.
something we see in a lot of his films, like The Thing, it's stuck kind of in that one section where they are. Even Prince of Darkness, they're in the church, and Halloween, they're in the house. Even later on in this film, something like Ghost of Mars, they're on the the section that they are on Mars. They're stuck in this
Yeah.
one building. So something that he does very well of, like, creating tension within the space that they are given. I Again, as someone, you've watched quite a few Carpenter films, had that feel for you of, like, the use of kind of the building they're in becoming a part of the story and maybe a character on their own,
Yeah.
because I wanna, like, point out again something that you pointed out that was really interesting to me, the precinct operating, sorry, as, like, a saloon, and a saloon is very important in a Western. So how
Yeah.
the use of physical space operates for you in this movie.
Like you said, he Carpenter does it so well because like, it does become, like, a character, and you start to like, the way that he can even communicate the geography of these places and, like, you start to know the layout
Mhm,
of the precinct or even, like, in the thing, you start to understand the layout of their base and stuff like that, and it is, like it is a bit claustrophobic, like, it's that feeling of, like, we're the only ones that are gonna be able to help ourselves, you know, like, we're stuck in this place, and we are gonna have to figure out how to use it to our advantage, which I always like stuff like that, like, I mean, I love Home Alone, like, like
yeah,
stuff
see?
that kinda idea of just, like, we gotta use what we have here, and it's not extravagant, it's not a lot, but we're gonna make do, and it goes back to, like, I guess, like, how he has those lower budgets and what he
Mhm,
can do with such little space and make it feel so cinematic and so, like, it's still action-packed, and you still feel all the tension, like, everything without having to go a bunch of places, you know? You still get a lotta character development, like, everything can still happen in a small confined space, so I think it's really impressive because it's not easy, like, sometimes when you're stuck in one place, it gets boring, and
mhm.
if the director doesn't know how to build it up and give everything character, it becomes like, "Okay, like, we've been looking at this gray wall for, like, a long time." Like, I wanna see something different, but I never feel like that with Carpenter's movies, like, it's so everything's so interesting, I don't feel like we need to change location, you know? Like, it doesn't need to happen.
Exactly, and I think
Yeah.
he does so well at making you, the audience, feel the fear that the characters feel of,
Yeah.
like, "If I leave this space, I know it's over for me."
Yes.
Which makes you understand why they're stuck there, because every time we cut out to what's happening outside and we're just seeing them again being like, "Okay, so how many, are
Yeah.
in this
Mhm.
gang?" Because they're multiplying and they're everywhere, they're surrounding the area. They know that if they leave, it's over for them, there's no
Yeah.
way that they can escape, and I think him flashing between those scenes when he does is really good because
Mhm.
you know that, like, there's no way to get out without being seen by multiple, and it's like, do I just wanna get shot now, or
Mhm.
do I try wait it out and
Yeah.
see if someone's gonna be on the way
Mhm.
to, to come save us? And I think, being having a film in the '70s where nowadays technology would make things probably a little bit easier for them because there'd be
Yeah.
more ways to communicate, so it has that era of on its time, and I know there's a remake with Ethan Hawke
Yeah.
and I can't remember the
I
other
think it's
guy's name.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne. I haven't seen it,
Yeah. I haven't seen it either, I just saw a picture. Yeah.
and I was like, I don't think they set it in the '70s because it looks very, I think it's like 2013 or
Mm.
2003 it came out. I
Mhm.
can't remember. It looks like it's very of the time, at least,
Mhm.
like, the pictures look like it's of the time, so I'm wondering how they modernized it for that. I never hear
Right.
anyone speak about that movie, so
Me either.
I can't imagine it was that great,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I think what you said, he is so great at showing you the layout without ever being like, "I'm gonna take the camera through so you
Yeah,
see."
yeah, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
just like he treats the audience with enough respect to know that they're gonna understand
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
what's going on, which is, I think, great, and it's something that I just noticed that he does quite a bit and does very well in his films, and it never feels, like you said, like you're bored, like you're waiting and wanting to get out. You want them to get out for their own safety,
For
but
the
not
safety,
because you're, like,
yeah.
bored of seeing them there. So, I'm wondering if there's anything about the film that stuck out to you, or any Carpenter stamps that stuck out to you that we haven't mentioned that you want to talk about?
I just love that his movies really center, like, regular people. It's never, like, extraordinary, like, assassin somebody, it's not people who, like, have know a great deal about the subject or anything like that. It's just, like, these are, like, regular people put in very intense situations and, like, just the scrappiness of it. I always like that, just seeing how people can make do when they don't have a lot, and he really, like, communicates that well, and, like, how people can get along, like, I don't like, these people are very different, but they really work perfectly together, and I just love the very end of it. Well, not the very end, but at the end when the police finally get into the precinct and they find them all with their weapons, and it's like, this is our little ragtag group here, and they, like, they made it through, and, like, Napoleon's just holding, like, a piece of a chair, like, it's like it's really impressive. I love, like, it happens in a thing, and, like, they live,
Mhm,
like, he's like, and they live, he's just a regular guy who's, like, putting the pieces together, you know? So I really like that theme of his that, like, regular people can get it done, you know? Everybody doesn't
mhm.
have to be a bomb expert or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, like, in yeah, exactly, an expert in that field.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
someone who walks off the street who's been put in a situation that
Mhm.
they, probably were never expecting to be put in, but
Yeah.
it is very interesting to see how they all work together in the film, and I think, again, I know he, at the time, was saying that he didn't want to send a message, but I think it is sending a message because a lot of films of the even of the '70s would point out to be like, "Hey, we're all so different, I just don't know how we're gonna get
Yes.
along." And he's like, "What the hell do you mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're human beings who are all
exactly.
trying to survive, so that should be enough
That's
for you."
enough. You'll figure Yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out from there. We don't have to say the message. Yeah.
Exactly. We don't all have to be like, "Oh, you guys didn't grow up in the same area? I don't know if
Yeah.
we can work it out." So, yeah, it is interesting, again, watching how he's continued that throughout his career, how it's always just been like, "This is a natural thing for
Yeah.
me."
Mhm.
As for someone who is so outspoken, I appreciate that he doesn't try and try and make things a bigger deal than they are through
Right, right,
his
right.
work.
Mhm.
He's like, "I'll talk about it on my own personal time," and
Yeah.
he's usually just shit talking other directors and other
Yes,
artists. He's not
exactly.
or just saying that, the current administration in America
Mhm.
is, like, not to his liking, which,
Yes.
again, more people need to do.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
we love
Definitely.
him for that.
I do. Even if I don't always agree with him
Yeah, no.
on who he's bashing, I'm like, at least he said it.
Exactly, I think some people are a little too nice now,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I don't even think he's not mean, he's just saying,
No.
"Hey, this is it just wasn't for me, and I'm gonna tell you why," and I respect that. I'm sure he would respect if people said that about his work too, and he's used to it. Um, I do still have one more question for you, though.
Mhm.
If we're gonna pair Assault on Precinct 13 with another film, or films if you have more than one option, what are you pairing this with if you're making a double bill? And I'm curious to hear why you're pairing the 2 films together.
Well, it's funny, initially, I was going to say Night of the Living Dead, but then you said that this was he was influenced
Mhm,
by that film. So that makes perfect sense. It's just I
mhm.
recently watched that for the first time,
Oh, nice.
literally, like, a month ago, and I was horrified.
Yeah.
And, like, it does have elements you can clearly see the elements of that in Assault on Precinct 13. But I also just watched a movie that I've been meaning to watch for a while, Green Room,
Oh,
from
yeah.
yeah, I think it's from
Mhm,
2013 or something, but, yeah, they're very similar, like, with, the idea of, like, being stuck in a place and being laid siege
mhm,
upon, and also just regular people, because the in Green Room, it's just a band of, like, kids, really, who are now in the middle of, like, a Nazi plot. So and they have to, like, figure out how to get out alive, and it's got a lot of shocking deaths and, like, brutal scenes just like Assault on Precinct 13, so I think those would be a good pairing, like, to see, like, especially, like you were talking about, how do we do this in a modern sense when we
mhm.
have phones and things like that, and Green Room handles it really well, I think, so I really liked it. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I really like that movie, and the minute
Mhm.
you mentioned it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that would be a perfect double bill." Even
Yeah.
in Night of the Living Dead 2 would be great because you could
Yeah.
see the influence. The Green
Mhm.
Room, if you're even going more modern, would be
Yeah.
fantastic. That movie is super underrated, and the people who
Yeah.
love it, they love it, but I
Mhm.
wish more people would see it because it's a film that it kind of feels like it had to have been influenced by stuff from the
Yeah.
'70s, and I'm sure it probably was influenced by this movie and how they handled that. That movie is very intense.
Oh, extremely. I mean, it's extremely intense. As soon as they get to that bar, it's like the whole mood, because it's kind of fun, like, because our group that you're with, they're funny, they're young, they're hip, and then we move into this back of the woods bar, and it's like everything is scary. It's like
I know.
you don't know what's around the corner. Yeah, it's really good.
I should rewatch that 'cause it's been a long time. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll save it
it's
for
good.
Halloween season. It's coming up. Um, no, those are great. I One of my options was one if you just kind of with Night of the Living Dead, if you wanna see films that it was influenced by, you could pair it with Rio Bravo and
Mhm,
see the Howard Hawks influence, but I was thinking about other films that are set in kind of one location, and there's a reason why they can't go outside, or remove themselves from the situation until
mhm,
everything is cleared, so I thought of another Western called Day of the Outlaw by Andre de Toth, and it's
mm.
1959. It's a winter Western,
Oh, cool.
so the reason why they can't go outside is because a huge storm
Okay.
that they will not make it, out of if they go out at that time, so they had to wait for the storm to clear, but we have some outsiders that have come in. There's a lot of tensions because the outsiders are trying to take over the area, and so now
Mhm,
they're stuck in one kind of saloon hotel situation, but it's
mm.
very close-knit and all the action takes place there. So, if you want another Western to watch, this one's a black and white, but I'm a big fan of it, and I definitely always recommend it to people. So if you want to,
Mhm.
you can go either way. You can really triple bill it by doing that one, Assault and Green Room,
Yeah.
and get 3 different eras of filmmaking and get
Mhm.
to see how space is utilized in
Right.
a film, because I
Yeah.
think those are all great examples of how to build tension in such a
Mhm.
small space. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I highly recommend those. But Cosmo, I want to say a huge thank you. I'm so glad I finally had you on. I had such a
Yeah.
great time. Your insights are always very thoughtful, and I love hearing your thoughts on films. So thank you for coming on for Assault on Precinct 13.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I've just learned so much, being with the
Oh God.
professor. Yeah, really. It's always a delight.
No, it's always fantastic talking to you, and I hope this is just the start of, many other times, and
Yes.
I know that you've been on other people's shows,
Mhm.
friends of the show, you've been on, Bad Movies You Love, Movie Friends, and probably
Mhm.
many others,
Mhm.
so I'll link to those too because, for people so that they can hear you speak about other films because, it's always a fantastic time hearing about
Yeah.
your eclectic taste in films, which I think is very important. I think it's cool when people are like, "I like a lot of different style of movies." So
Cool. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot more silly than be prepared for a lot more silly things than here.
I know. I know. I try and be more fun, but then I always get bogged down.
We need people like you to, because cinema's important. We need somebody who actually understands that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like, "Okay, well, we're gonna" we have a lot of friends that we
Yeah,
also have shows that, um get the more fun side of it,
yeah.
and so there's that. No, but
Mhm.
I appreciate it. Thanks
Yes,
so much.
no problem. Absolute joy.
Seeing Faces in Movies is an official podcast of the Royal Film Club. It's hosted and edited by Felicia. If you like what you heard, let us know at seeingfacesmovies.com or send us an email at seeingfacesmovies@gmail.com. And while you're at it, please subscribe and rate the show wherever we listen to your podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode on The Thing. Watch more movies, and we'll catch you next time.